We've all had that unsettling feeling, the quiet suspicion that someone might be smiling in front of us but whispering behind us. It can leave us questioning our worth, second-guessing relationships, and even shrinking from our own voice. The truth is, betrayal often doesn't announce itself loudly. It hides in subtle shifts, small patterns, and unspoken energy. Long before words ever reveal the truth, the body begins to speak. It's subtle, it's quiet, and yet it's remarkably honest. People may think they can hide what they say about you when you're not around, but the body often betrays the secret. The eyes avoid contact, the smile feels forced, the laughter rings hollow. There's a stiffness in the way they stand near you, as if proximity makes them uncomfortable, as if they're carrying the weight of something unsaid. When someone has spoken about you behind your back, they often live in a quiet tension when you are present. Why? Because duplicity requires energy. To be one way in private and another way in public is exhausting, and that exhaustion leaks through their posture, their gestures, and even their tone of voice. You might notice them becoming overly cheerful, trying too hard to convince you of their affection, or the opposite, withdrawing into awkward silence. Both are signals that their body knows it's holding a contradiction. Trust your intuition here. Your nervous system is designed to sense incongruence. You can walk into a room and without a word spoken, you feel when something is off. That tightening in your chest, that quiet voice in your gut, it is not paranoia, it is perception. Your body is detecting what their body is leaking, discomfort, guilt, or hidden disdain. And here's the truth. Body language doesn't lie for long. A person who genuinely supports you will look you in the eyes with ease, stand relaxed in your presence, and engage with sincerity. But someone who has secretly undermined you will always wrestle with the weight of duality. Their gestures become fragmented, their laughter misplaced, their timing unnatural. It is as if their body is caught between two realities, the one they pretend to uphold in front of you and the one they've already betrayed in the shadows. Learning to read these signals isn't about suspicion, it's about self-protection. It allows you to step back, not with bitterness, but with clarity, because once you recognize the silent confession written in their posture and expressions, you'll understand that the truth doesn't always need to be spoken aloud. Sometimes it is already being broadcasted in every shrug, every glance, and every uneasy smile. One of the clearest signs that someone may be secretly talking about you is when pieces of your private life begin to echo in places you never placed them. Imagine sharing a personal story with one trusted person, and then weeks later, someone else casually mentions that same detail, something you never gave them access to. In that moment, you realize your story has traveled without your permission. It's like hearing your own voice coming back to you, but distorted, altered, and reshaped through another's telling. This experience can feel deeply unsettling because our stories are sacred. They carry our vulnerabilities, our struggles, our joys, and our truths. When we offer them to someone, we are extending trust. And when those stories show up in strange places, it feels like trust has been fractured. The words you thought were safe in the hands of one person are now roaming freely, sometimes in twisted forms, sometimes half true, and sometimes used as casual conversation for someone else's entertainment. Here's the deeper pain. Gossip doesn't just spread information. It steals ownership of your narrative. It takes something that belongs to you and puts it into the mouths of others who were never meant to carry it. And when your story is passed along, it often loses its nuance, its truth, and its heart. What was once your vulnerable confession becomes someone else's version, someone else's punchline, or someone else's judgment. You may notice this not only in conversations, but also in the subtle shifts in how people treat you. Maybe colleagues begin looking at you differently, as if they know something they shouldn't. Maybe a friend suddenly offers advice on a struggle you only shared with one person. These are the echoes, the reverberations of your words traveling into rooms you never walked into. And here's what's important to understand. When you hear these echoes, it's not just about betrayal. It's a reminder of why boundaries matter. Not every detail of your life is meant to be shared with everyone, and not every listener has earned the right to carry your story. Some people handle information like treasure, guarding it with care and loyalty. Others treat it like currency, trading it to gain connection, power, or attention. The lesson isn't to close yourself off completely. It's to discern who has proven themselves trustworthy. Because when you hear your life whispered in places you never shared it, that is not just gossip. It is a signal, a warning light that invites you to reevaluate who deserves to sit at the table of your trust. Not all gossip hides in silence. Sometimes it shows up right in front of you, disguised as kindness. One of the most telling signs that someone may be speaking behind your back is when their compliments don't actually feel like compliments at all. Instead, they carry a sting, a subtle jab wrapped in polite words. You've probably heard it before, phrases like, "You look great today," "I didn't expect that from you," "I wish I had your confidence to wear something like that," "Wow, you're successful, Mo, for someone your age." On the surface, these may sound like praise, but if you lean in, you'll notice the undercurrent of criticism, envy, or comparison. It's not really admiration, it's a disguised attempt to remind you of your supposed limits. And often, this is the language of someone who has already been tearing you down in private. What they rehearse behind closed doors eventually leaks out in public, hidden in sarcasm or playful jokes. Here's why this matters. Genuine compliments uplift. They have no hidden edge, no shadow of malice. They leave you lighter, stronger, seen. But a false compliment leaves you second-guessing yourself. It makes you wonder, was that really kind, or was that a cut beneath the surface? That confusion is not accidental. It is the residue of gossip, because when someone speaks against you behind your back, they often can't keep their true feelings entirely contained when standing before you. And here's the emotional cost. Subtle jabs can chip away at your confidence if you allow them. They blur the line between support and sabotage, between admiration and mockery. They can make you feel like you're overreacting if you call them out, because the words themselves sound harmless, but the tone, the smirk, or the timing carries the truth. Recognizing these compliments for what they are is an act of self-preservation. When you hear them, pause and notice how your body reacts. Do you feel uplifted or diminished? Do you walk away more confident or quietly questioning yourself? Your body will always know the difference. And remember this, people who are truly for you don't lace their affirmations with poison. They don't disguise envy as humor. They don't undermine you under the banner of praise. They speak life into you, not confusion. When someone repeatedly offers you praise that hurts more than it heals, it's often a glimpse into the words they've been speaking when you're not around. So guard your heart. Don't let these jabs convince you that your worth is negotiable, because at the end of the day, those comments say far more about the insecurity in them than about the value in you. One of the most painful yet undeniable signs that someone talks behind your back is when their loyalty to you seems to change depending on who is in the room. Around you, they might laugh with you, share warm words, and even call you a friend. But put them in a different circle, especially one where gossip thrives, and their allegiance suddenly wavers. This shift is subtle at first. Maybe they don't defend you when someone else makes a cutting remark. Maybe they stay quiet while your name is being tossed around. Or worse, they nod along, adding fuel to the fire, all for the sake of belonging. When they're with you, they're one person. When they're away, they're someone else entirely. That inconsistency is the fingerprint of betrayal. And here's the deeper truth. Loyalty is not proven in your presence. It's proven in your absence. Anyone can smile at you, take pictures with you, or share jokes when you're sitting at the same table. But the real test of loyalty happens when you are not there to defend yourself. Do they stand firm or do they bend with the crowd? Do they protect your name or do they trade it for temporary approval? People who gossip often crave acceptance more than integrity. They will shift like the wind, adjusting their words and attitudes to fit whatever group they're in at the moment. With you, they might act supportive. With others, they may downplay their closeness to you, or worse, join in criticizing you to avoid standing out. And when someone's identity depends on being liked by everyone, loyalty is always the first thing sacrificed. This is why noticing these shifts matters. It teaches you to discern who is truly safe for your heart. A person who consistently changes their loyalty is not someone you can trust with your story, your reputation, or your dreams. Their friendship is conditional. It lasts only as long as it's convenient. And while it hurts to face that truth, there's also freedom in it. Because once you recognize that loyalty should be steady, not situational, you stop chasing people who treat you like an option. You stop mistaking their friendliness for faithfulness. And you begin to build your circle on a different foundation, one where loyalty doesn't shift with the room because it's rooted in integrity, not in approval. So remember this: the rooms they stand in reveal more about them than the words they say to you. Pay attention to who they become when you're not around, because that is who they truly are. Sometimes betrayal doesn't announce itself with loud accusations or sharp criticism. Sometimes it hides in something quieter, something harder to confront: silence. And often, that silence can feel louder than words ever could. Think about it. Someone who once shared freely with you, laughed openly, or checked in on you suddenly becomes distant. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel strained. Where there used to be warmth, there is now a chill. They avoid certain topics, leave pauses hanging in the air, or withdraw completely when you're around. Their silence isn't accidental. It's heavy, deliberate, and loaded with unspoken tension. Why does this happen? Because when someone has been speaking behind your back, guilt has a way of creeping into their presence. Every interaction becomes a balancing act. They're managing what they said in private while trying to appear genuine in public. And that inner conflict often translates into awkward silence. They may avoid eye contact, hold back from engaging, or even distance themselves altogether. It's not that they have nothing to say, it's that they have too much to hide. But here's where it gets tricky. Silence can be confusing. On the surface, it looks like nothing. Yet deep down, you feel it. The human heart is sensitive. It knows when something has shifted. You sense the absence of connection. You notice that their laughter feels forced or that their presence feels hollow. Your intuition whispers, something's not right here. Silence can also be a form of punishment. Instead of openly discussing issues, people who gossip may choose withdrawal as a way to control the narrative. They withhold affirmation, affection, or honesty because deep inside, they fear that if they engage too much, the truth might slip out. Their quietness becomes a shield, but to you, it feels like rejection. And the emotional cost is real. When someone's silence replaces their words, it leaves you questioning yourself. Did I do something wrong? Did I upset them? Am I imagining this distance? But the reality is, their silence often has less to do with you and more to do with what they've already done. Here's the wisdom. Don't ignore the silence. Pay attention to what is missing, to what has gone unsaid. Sometimes the absence of words reveals more than words ever could. And while it hurts to recognize that someone's silence may be tied to betrayal, it also frees you to step back and reclaim your energy. Because here's the truth: people who genuinely care for you don't leave you guessing. They don't make you feel small with their silence. They don't withdraw as a way of hiding guilt. Real connection speaks, affirms, engages, and shows up. And when that disappears, don't be afraid to see it for what it is, a quiet signal that something has already been spoken where you were not present. One of the most revealing moments in any relationship is not what happens when everything is smooth, but what happens when you gather the courage to confront someone. When you look them in the eye and gently say, "I heard this. Is it true?" Or, "Did you say this about me?" Their response speaks volumes. A person who has secretly spoken behind your back will often respond with dismissal rather than accountability. Instead of leaning into honesty, they minimize your feelings, they laugh it off. "Oh, come on, you're too sensitive." They deny with mockery. "Seriously? You believe that?" They flip the script. "Why would you even think I'd do something like that?" In these moments, notice what they are really doing. They are not addressing the issue. They are trying to shrink your courage. Here's the painful truth. When someone downplays your pain, they are protecting themselves, not your relationship. They want to escape the discomfort of being exposed, so they dismiss your emotions as exaggerated. But your pain is not an exaggeration. It is the natural response to betrayal, to broken trust, to the realization that someone you let close may not have handled your name with care. And this tactic is not random, it's manipulative. By making you feel like your reaction is overblown, they create doubt inside you. Suddenly you start questioning yourself. Am I being too sensitive? Am I misreading this? Should I just let it go? That confusion works in their favor. It allows them to continue the behavior without ever being truly accountable. But let me say this clearly. Your feelings are valid. If something pierced your spirit, if something caused you to feel small, betrayed, or diminished, it deserves to be acknowledged. Dismissing someone's hurt does not erase the truth. It only deepens the wound. And when someone repeatedly meets your vulnerability with denial, it is a red flag, not just of gossip, but of a lack of integrity. People who value you will not downplay your pain. They will lean in. They will say, "I didn't realize I hurt you that way. Tell me more." They will hold space for your feelings, even if it's uncomfortable, because the relationship matters more to them than saving face. So when you confront someone and they respond by minimizing, mocking, or deflecting, hear it for what it is, not a reflection of your worth, but a revelation of their character. And sometimes that revelation is all you need to decide who deserves a seat in your inner circle. Few things are as unsettling as realizing that the smile directed at you is not a reflection of joy, but a mask covering envy. On the surface, the person claps for you, congratulates you, and maybe even says they're proud. But beneath that surface lies a tension, a bitterness that cannot stay hidden forever. Envy is one of the greatest fuels of gossip. When someone secretly compares their life to yours and feels they are falling short, it becomes easier for them to tear you down behind closed doors rather than celebrate you genuinely. They may smile when you share good news, but the brightness doesn't reach their eyes. You sense the hesitation in their voice, the forced tone of excitement, the quick shift of subject. It feels like they are present physically, but absent emotionally. What makes envy so dangerous is that it often dresses itself in false friendship. The person doesn't openly show hostility because that would expose their true feelings. Instead, they hide it with politeness while releasing the tension in private conversations. That's where the whispers begin. That's where the "did you hear about them?" or "yeah, but don't be fooled" statements are born. Their gossip is not random. It's a release valve for the jealousy they refuse to admit. And here's the truth. Envy has nothing to do with you. It is a mirror of their own insecurities, their own unhealed wounds, their own sense of lack. But because they cannot face those feelings within themselves, they direct the energy outward toward you. They think, if I can shrink their shine in someone else's eyes, maybe I won't feel so small in my own. This is why it's so important to notice when the smile doesn't match the spirit. Real supporters don't just cheer when you win, they feel your win as their own. They celebrate without hesitation, without comparison, without subtle resistance. Their eyes light up, their presence expands, and you leave their company feeling uplifted, not questioned. But when you sense envy hiding behind the smile, take it as wisdom, not paranoia. Protect your heart, because someone who cannot genuinely celebrate you will eventually resent you. And someone who resents you will almost always find an outlet for that resentment in conversations you're not invited to hear. The lesson is this: not every smile is sincere, and not every friend is free from envy. Pay attention not to the words alone, but to the energy that accompanies them, because the truth always leaks through, even if it hides behind a smile. One of the clearest windows into someone's character is not how they treat you directly, but how they speak about others when those people are not in the room. Pay close attention. If someone constantly criticizes, mocks, or tears down their friends the moment they walk away, you can be almost certain that the same words will eventually be spoken about you. Gossip is not selective, it's a habit, it's a way of living. Someone who feels comfortable dismantling another person's reputation will not suddenly develop integrity when it comes to yours. If they find joy in sharing someone else's flaws, struggles, or mistakes, what makes you think they won't share yours too? The patterns they practice with others are the very patterns they will repeat with you. And here's the deeper truth: words are seeds. When people plant negativity about others in front of you, they are also planting a warning, showing you who they are at their core. Gossip is less about the subject being discussed and more about the heart of the speaker. It reveals insecurity, a hunger for validation, or even jealousy disguised as casual conversation. If their words are constantly dripping with criticism when others are absent, those same drops will eventually carry your name. This is why it's important to listen, not just to what people say about you, but to how they talk about anyone. Do they honor people even in absence? Do they extend grace when someone fails? Do they celebrate others' successes without comparison? Or do they roll their eyes, whisper secrets, and find satisfaction in highlighting someone else's shortcomings? Because what you hear them say about others is not just idle talk. It is a mirror reflecting how they will treat you when you're not around. There's another layer to this. Gossipers often use you as their audience to recruit agreement. They might speak negatively about someone else, waiting for you to nod along, to laugh, to join in. In that moment, you're not just hearing their words, you're witnessing the trap they set. And the very same way they invite you into gossip, they will invite someone else into gossip about you. The wisdom here is simple but profound. If you want to know what someone says about you, listen to how they speak. About others, that is the rehearsal, that is the script. The mouth that consistently dishonors others cannot be trusted to honor you. So guard your trust wisely. People who build others up in their absence are the ones who will protect you in yours. But people who tear others down are showing you their character in real time. Believe them. Because the mirror never lies, it always reflects the truth of the heart. When we talk about betrayal, we often imagine something obvious, dramatic, or loud. But the truth is, most of the time, it arrives quietly. It's tucked inside a forced smile, hidden in a silence that feels heavier than words, or slipped into a compliment that leaves a sting instead of strength. It shows itself in loyalty that bends depending on the room, in envy that disguises itself as support, in dismissive laughter when your pain is real, and in words about others that eventually become words about you. Every one of these signs is not meant to make you paranoid, but to make you aware, because awareness is protection. When you begin to notice body language that doesn't align with words, when you hear your private story echoing where it doesn't belong, when you recognize the difference between genuine encouragement and subtle mockery, you are no longer vulnerable to blind betrayal. You start to see people for who they are, not just for who